Thanks for joining us for another Country Profiles this week. This week I'm traveling to an island near to Jamaica. Well, Jamaica is an island as well, as you would know. But this week I'm going to be talking to my colleague, fellow Chevening scholar herself, Theominique Nottage from the Bahamas. We're going to discover all that's beautiful about the Bahamas and try to get you to come to the Bahamas if you have not been. I said, hi Theominique, how are you?
Hi Oroyo, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for talking with me.
Thanks for having me. I'm glad I didn't have to continue stalking you for this video.
The pleasure is mine. The pleasure is mine. Theominique, I'm going to want you to do something for me. Many times we watch those beauty pageants and we'd see girls, being asked to sell their country in 30 seconds or just a minute. For those people who don't know the Bahamas, who may have not been there, what would you tell them about the Bahamas?
I would tell them that the Bahamas is more than a tourist destination. It's not just for one type of tourist either. We are a country of 700 islands and more than 2,000 keys, and that there is more to the Bahamas than Nassau and Freeport. We have family islands that offer different attractions to the different type of tourists. If you're into ecotourism, you can go to Andros, which is said to be like the lungs of the Bahamas because it processes the carbon emissions. You can go to the Abacos for fishing. You can go to Eleuthera for beaches, the pink sand beaches and surfing. If you like salt flats, you can go to Anagua. And if you like to see sheep, or if you just like really good boating, you can go to Long Island. I think people don't realize that the Bahamas has a very strong cultural identity, and it's different from other Caribbean islands, but it also has similarities as well. We really, really, really enjoy John Canoe. It's very competitive. It's a strong rivalry.
Explain to them what John Canoe is.
John Canoe is a parade that it has its historic roots in slavery, when it was the time when the slave masters would allow the black slaves to celebrate. So they would gather paper mache and cardboard and march through the streets of Nassau. And it's evolved into something that's so much more than those primitive costumes. Now you have costumes that are built on cardboard, crepe paper. You have them tricked out. When we say tricked out, you have the beads, the feathers, and you have to have persons carrying them with like big football shoulder pads.
Do they still involve the costumes like of horse heads and?
It depends. We
animals,
have four major groups. So we have the Valley Boys, the Saxons, the Shell Saxon Superstars, of which that's my,
Okay.
We have Roots, and we also have One Family, and then we have the smaller minor groups. And Saxons and Valley are probably the two biggest groups, so it's like 4,000 members strong.
Wow.
So you literally have like thousands of people participating in the John Canoe Parade every Boxing Day, every New Year's. And as you go down Bay Street, I think the hottest spot to be in is Rawson Square. And literally one side of Rawson Square go the Valley, and the next side is Saxon. So it's like a big rivalry, and the bleachers are just rocking.
So is that like a major celebration that time of the year
It's
in
huge.
the Bahamas?
It's huge.
Okay.
And John Canoe is something that's done year round. Like John Canoe practice is probably going to start in June. And that's when we have the choreographed dancers and the music. Because we have goatskin drums, brass, and cowbells, and the horns.
Wow.
So it's a big production. So they start John Canoe practices in the summer. And each group has their different locations that they practice. And every Saturday, Sunday, you go to John Canoe practice.
Wow.
And
Sounds fun.
They start building the costumes.
Sounds fun. Maybe we should all go to the Bahamas come Boxing Day and New Year's to take part in the John Canoe Festival. Sounds fun. What else? And Theominique is just a perfect cultural ambassador for her country. Just hear how she was able to tell you all of that in just a minute or so. What else is very peculiar about the Bahamas? Let's talk about other lifestyle practices like sport and music. What sport is the most dominant in the Bahamas, you would say?
I can't really say like which sport is more dominant, because I think it's a toss-up between basketball and football. We call it soccer, but I'm going to call it football for everybody else out there watching.
Because of the American influence on your country, is it?
Well, I don't know. In school, we call it soccer, but the official league is the Bahamas Football League. So they call it football as well. And then too, we also have flag football leagues for both men and women. But I would say between soccer and basketball, those are the most dominant sports.
How about music? What do you get involved in most? Do you still have the what is tradition across the Caribbean or most popular across the Caribbean, which is that almost reggae or calypso soca?
Bahamian music, we call it rake and scrape.
Rake and scrape.
And it comes from, its roots are in Cat Island, which is another one of the Bahamian Islands, with they used the saws and different, I guess, I don't know, like different types of stuff to make instruments. And it's called rake and scrape, and it's just developed, and it has influences from reggae and soca and dancehall and even pop and R&B. So Bahamian music, I think, is quite different from the rest of the Caribbean. It's not American, it's not completely Caribbean, but it's Bahamian.
And you would still say it is very popular, and a lot of people enjoy that type of music in the Caribbean, or do you have the influx of the American music, or your closer Caribbean island music, that sometimes take over?
I think now that Bahamian music is gaining more traction, it's being played on the radio more. It's more, in the past, when I was growing up, it was mostly Visage and the Spank Band, but now you have people like Wendy 242 and Dyson Knight, they're coming up. You have people like Sketch Carey, who used to be, whose family is connected to Bahamas. And you have Bahamian artists. You have Julian Believe now, who's collaborating with like Father Fox and Bunji Collins. So you have the Caribbean influence coming in, and then you also have the American influence coming in. So it's like a melting pot of both. Mm-hmm. But now the Bahamas is really getting into soca more. Mm-hmm. This year we're having our second annual Bahamas Drunken Carnival. So last year was our first time having.
When is that?
It is in, I think, like 8 or 9 days.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so we can't go. All right. Let's talk about the influence of other Western cultures on the Bahamas, and I think for many Caribbean islands we are almost feel like there's a threat of our general cultural practices being overridden by that from maybe America, the UK, or so forth. Do you have that threat of those superpowers on your country, would you say?
I would say yes. We have a lot of foreign direct investment from American developers, from Chinese developers as well, and I think that's a growing concern for a lot of Bahamians, the influx of Chinese money into the economy. They have two major projects that they have their hand in now. One is Bahamas, which is a complete fiasco because it's in receivership. You also have The Point, which is near downtown Nassau, the waterfront, which I think is kind of good because it redevelops downtown Nassau, which in some aspects are a little derelict. So it is good, but then I think that Bahamians tend to have an idea where they like to put Bahamians first.
That's good.
And that has been an administrative policy of past governments. And I think now, especially with the upcoming referendum on gender equality, where 3 of the issues address citizenship, it's becoming a major concern for Bahamians that they want to protect the Bahamas for Bahamians. But at the same time, I think it's unwise to completely isolate us from foreigners, because you need the foreign direct investment to develop infrastructure and different things to improve it for Bahamians.
Okay, and then let's start then about what's the main source of income in the Bahamas? What do people do most for a living?
Okay, so our number one industry is tourism, and the second industry is financial services. So a lot of people, I would say a lot of millennials in my age group, they work more so in the financial services industry, whether it be as a private banker or commercial banker or as an attorney. A lot of my colleagues work in financial services, and I have a few colleagues that are hospitality professionals, but I think that those people who work in tourism are more so from previous generations, when that was the only thing the Bahamas had going on and was known for. But now that we're moving towards placing greater emphasis on our financial services product, more millennials are getting involved in it. So tourism and financial services.
Do you find, and we're going to wrap up very soon, do you find that young people graduating from universities and so forth in the Bahamas have sufficient employment opportunities that they do not have to you know, migrate overseas to find those opportunities. Do you think your country provides enough opportunities for them?
I think it depends on which industry you're in. A few years ago, I was involved in a nonprofit organization called Link Bahamas that was involved in addressing the Bahamian brain drain. Because you had issues of where Bahamians would go abroad to the U.S., to Canada, and to the United Kingdom to become educated. When they came home, they weren't the same opportunities available at home as opposed to what was available to them where they studied. So personally for me, what I'm studying, I do want to go back home because both the government and the private sector is pushing towards the Bahamas becoming an international arbitration center. But I know for other professions, it's a little difficult. Like my brother is a biomedical engineer, and had he stayed in the States, he would probably be making like 6 figures. But he chose to come home, and he works for the Public Hospital Authority at home, and he deals with the biomedical engineering department there. But it's not the same opportunities that he would have away. But he wants to be at home to develop the industry at home.
He's a true patriot like yourself.
That's a difficulty with being an educated Bahamian. You want to go abroad for, you know, to study and to get the opportunities and experience you need, but at the end of the day, you still want to come home because what is the point of you becoming so educated and you know, getting all of this professional experience and gathering these skills if you can't implement them at home to further advance your country?
I wish everyone would think like that. I mean, I think many countries, well, small developing countries suffer with that problem of young people finding opportunities within their own country and having to move outside of their country to find those opportunities, and very often face challenges either to return or do not want to return at all. You've been a perfect ambassador for your country. Trust me, you've done so well in, you know, selling your country to the world, I believe. If there was anything you would like to see different about your country and its people, what would it be?
Well, I think I'm going to respond to that in the context of the gender equality referendum, and it's very much to the forefront of my mind, especially living abroad, that there's a possibility that I may not marry a Bahamian, and if I don't marry a Bahamian as it stands currently, my child won't be a Bahamian, which I think is ridiculous. Wow. So I actually, before I came out, I told you I went to the High Commission. I just registered to vote in the upcoming referendum. So I would like Bahamians as a whole to be less xenophobic, to be more open to different cultures, and to understand that women contribute just as much as men do to the country and deserve not to be discriminated against on the basis of their sex. So I would like Bahamians to be more open-minded and accepting of the way the world has evolved and the current times we live in.
Okay. Well, we all hope for that, and we wish the best for the Bahamas in that upcoming referendum. But thank you so much, Theominique, for being such a great, as I'm going to say it again, ambassador for your country.
Thanks, Oroyo, for having me.
Indeed. And thank you for watching. This has been another Country Profiles. Next week I'll have another guest. You don't know where or who it will be, but I'm sure it will be just as interesting as this one. Please watch, share the video, and comment as well. You can also ask questions. She will answer as well, and she will respond. Thank you so much. Take care.